Okay, when we first started this, my partner and I didn't really agree on how this presentation should go. She's not here. So it's going to go a little different than, because we've done it before. We've talked about how to sell your home. And I'm going to say this, and I mean it. You can sell your home. We are in the middle of a seller's market. It doesn't matter what your home is like. It doesn't matter where it is. It doesn't matter who sells it. It doesn't matter how it's sold. You can sell your home in this market. It doesn't take a genius to do it. And I'm going to show you how some of that stuff happens. Now I'm going to talk about mistakes. Who here, let's see, yeah, who here likes being told that they made a mistake? And we're selling this idea here, right? Come see it. You know, no one likes to feel bad about themselves. I'm telling you, the next one's a fact. Feelings determine our behavior. This is science. This is not just made up by somebody on the internet. Give you an example. There was a recent study, psychological study, and people in the group were asked, who here is better than an average driver? Who here is better than an average driver? Almost everybody in the room raised their hand. And that was kind of interesting. But here's what they walked away with. Almost everyone in that room during the past 12 months had been involved in an auto accident, and it was their fault. Now, you know, some say, well, they lied, right? Well, I mean, what could they have gained for themselves by putting up their hand? There wasn't anything there, right? I mean, it's not the fact that they were lying. It's the fact that this is the way you're wired. It's a fact that it's going to be very, very hard to ever change that. Now, what I'd like to do is I'm going to just talk about how we make those decisions. Why those decisions are really not your fault. It's just how you are. And we're going to start with, this is one reason that I wanted to do this, because when I saw somebody say the emotional toll of being unprepared to move, I thought, no kidding, I've been asking that question for a hell of a long time, and nobody ever brought it up. I went to several seminars, several gatherings, and nobody ever talked about, how do you feel? What's going through your mind, Mr. Seller? Not that, hey, I'm the greatest real estate person in the world, I work for the greatest real estate company, we've got everything figured out. But they never said, I go, how do you feel about this? What's going through your mind? They don't do that. I'm going to tell you, feelings, emotions, and beliefs, these are what you're going to rely on to make decisions. This is from Amy Comey, I can't remember her full name, another scientist that I didn't like for a long time. I read her book twice. This whole thing was about emotions, and I grew up in a time where men didn't have emotions, so I thought it was baloney to sell things. I really did. This is a fact. What's sitting on your brain is not wired for accuracy. It isn't. You can't spend your time getting things accurate. You're wired to stay alive. You're good at it, your ancestors were good at it, and they were good at it. I'm not knocking the human brain. It works well. It works just fine. And you can say it works just fine the way it is. This is a little busy here, but I want you to understand that I'm going to switch from brain to mind. Mind it's a process. It's not a thing that you can touch. It is how your brain works. It's what your brain does. And I want you to look at my iceberg there. Everybody sort of uses this. But when it comes to your mind, 95% of it is your unconscious mind. You're not aware of any of that. Your unconscious mind, your body management. You remember to breathe, didn't you? You remember to generate the proper chemistry in your system to keep your pH level right. How did you remember that? Your unconscious mind is doing all that. Long-term memory, creativity, and imagination, it's all down there in the deep, deep unconscious mind. The conscious mind, that's really, for me, the fun part. I mean, that's where awareness comes from. That's where planning comes from. The decision-making that comes from that is all hidden in here in the unconscious mind. Most of that's causing your cognitive behavior, how you think. Those are broken down to beliefs, emotions, feeling, intuition, habit, and bias. Now, those 57,000 thoughts per day, this is scientific data that they can prove with an MRI. That's what it is. That's going through your mind all the time. Where is that coming from? It's coming from your subconscious mind. Most of it, 95% of it. Not only is it coming from your unconscious mind, remember, your brain is wired to get things done, not to get them right. So a lot of that information that you're getting may not be totally right. Your unconscious mind, that is working at about 1,000,000 times faster than your unconscious mind. We couldn't make it if we didn't have that unconscious mind. That's pre-programmed stuff. Those are like little programs. Every time something comes up, your brain's going to access that program. It doesn't mean that you saw that. It means that happened, but something in here said this is what happened. And that's the way we think. Go to the next one, Steve. Now this is it. Cognitive behavior. It's how the mind simplifies information processing. If you think about the amount of stuff that you run into a day, and if you were to try to internalize it all and figure it all out, you wouldn't make it. Your brain grabs that little piece that's happened before and says, this is it. Now, our lives depend on the decisions we make. So here's where we get started. If we can learn to make better decisions, we can improve our lives. Now, there's over 180 cognitive biases. And those cognitive biases are going to influence when you move, it's going to influence where you move, it's going to influence the sale of the house, the sale price, it's going to influence how you market the property. All of this is already in your brain. You don't need me up here to tell you this. It's also going to tell you how to select a real estate agent. All that information is already there. I mean, it's a fact. Charged with any of those things that I just mentioned, you already have a solution to. Let's go to the next one. Now, I'm going to stop getting deeper right after this one. This is what's known in psychology as the habit loop. This is the way that subconscious mind works. You can see here, it starts with what I call a trigger. Some sort of stress happens. When that stress happens, your brain automatically moves into a place of behavior. And that behavior is going to be worry. And that worry is going to cause a little bit of anxiety. And then it's going to happen again. And the trigger's not going to happen again. What's going to happen again is the stress, the worry, the anxiety. It goes on and on and on and on. That's science. The anxiety that you're dealing with is an anxiety that's coming from your subconscious mind. It's not coming from your conscious mind. Now I'm going to go through two quick, what I'll call cognitive biases. The first one, I don't know if you can read this or not. There's a little meeting going on and the lady says, what if we don't change it all and something magical just happens? Well, it sort of already happened. That magical that just happens is in your subconscious mind. The status quo, I got it probably as bad as anybody else. I fought doing what I'm doing right now with my wife for a year. Thought it was time wasted. I wanted to keep everything the same. We had a business at work. Why change it, right? Because your wife tells you to do it, you better do it. Unless you want to sleep somewhere else. So I did it. I'm sort of glad I did. But what we always worry about is if I change, I'm going to lose something. You're worried about making that move. Example would be, how about I'll just use this as an example, it's simple. How about move it now, right? You know, I don't want to move now. I like this house. I've been here for a long time. I got to fix the plumbing now. But I'll take care of that. I'll get that called take care of. really got to trim that tree. I don't want to trim that tree. I'll talk to the gardener about it later. And all of a sudden, seriously, a lot of times people have told me that it's the things that are going on with their home, the constant work that needs done, that they all of a sudden wake up one day and goes, I just don't want to do this anymore. I'm not getting anything out of it anymore. It was fun when I was younger. It's not fun anymore. Then sometimes somebody can move. But that's the idea how your subconscious works. That's an idea. That's how status quo is. There's nothing bad about it. Let me show you how to support that bias. This is confirmation bias. I don't know whether you've heard of this one, but this is the fun one for me. There's evidence and facts, and I believe. We have a little bit of a combination in that cognitive bias of facts and evidence, and I believe. And that's what we believe is that piece in the middle. It's not what's really happening, it's what we believe is happened. Again, it's cognitive bias, it's what we have it, there's nothing wrong with it, but it helps if you know it's there when you're thinking about, is that really true? Go to the next one, Steve. Okay. Now, as we go through all the other mistakes we have coming up, I want you to pay attention to this. How you feel about the mistake I'm talking about. Do they make you uncomfortable? Do you have better evidence? Or are you just curious about it? Think about that, because that's your mind at work. I'm going to have, Harriet's going to talk a little bit about Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
So Rick spoke more about the sort of the scientific side of the emotional toll of being unprepared. And I'm going to step back all the way to 1943 when Maslow wrote the hierarchy of needs. And so the emotional impact of selling a home, it's pretty stressful. You want to be prepared emotionally before listing your home by setting realistic expectations, understanding that the process can be stressful, and leaning on professionals and support systems to keep a clear head throughout the process. So the basic needs, of course, shelter and security. A home provides shelter, which is one of our most basic needs. And selling it can cause stress because it threatens our safety and stability. The emotional security. Homes give us a sense of comfort and protection. Selling can disrupt this emotional security, causing anxiety of the unknown. The financial stress of it. A home is often a big financial asset. It's usually our biggest. Worrying about the sale price or the process of buying a new home can lead to financial stress. Your loss of belonging. People feel connected to their home, their neighborhood, their communities. So selling them can make you feel like you're losing your sense of belonging and connection. And self-esteem. Owning a home is a source of pride. Struggles in selling or downsizing can hurt a person's self-esteem and sense of achievement. Well, the good news is that for some, selling a home can be a fresh start and it can be seen as a new opportunity. However, it's still important while you're doing it to recognize the emotional challenges.
That was 1947?
43.
Or 43, wow.
It still holds true, I think.
I don't think that.
I know you don't. That's why I did that portion of it, because I believe it.
By the time we get done, before we quit, I'm going to go over how to deal with this thinking process and why we can't think our way out of those habit loops or even use willpower to overcome it. All right. Mistake number 2. You know what? I've watched a lot of people misprice their homes, and they still sell them. So, a mistake? Maybe it's just a learning experience? Another way to look at it, isn't it? By the way, there's only one reason a home doesn't sell. Anybody want to guess what that is? It's the price. They'll tell you that in every real estate place. It's a price. You get people saying, "Oh, you need to stage it. You need to do some work in the yard." Da. Just reduce the price. They'll sell constantly. Steve, can I get the next one? All right. This is what has happened in real estate in terms of number of, I think this one was, house price index. Basically, this is the number of sales. And the reason that this is up here, when the time comes, if you're selling property, the first thing you have to do is figure out what market am I in? Am I in a buyer's market or am I in a seller's market? You can get this stuff off the internet. The answer to the question is in this curve. See where the curve's going up, like it is now? Where's it going up? And so that makes it, what kind of market are we in? Seller's market, when it's going up. It's a seller's market when this line's going up. That's in your favor. When that line's coming back down, that's a buyer's market. I started doing this back in 2005 when that thing was falling down. And I couldn't even spell psychology at that time. I could not figure out why people would not price their homes when I would show them the data and say, this is what this home down the street sold for. You need to price your home below this one. Below this one, my house is a lot better than that house. I want to price it higher. And I said, look, you can price it higher if you want, but by the time this meeting's over, there's going to be 100 more homes that are coming on the market, and they're probably going to be lower than yours. They're going to be lower than those ones that were last week. That's why so many people are losing their homes. Nobody could come to the concept that nobody was going to buy a home for a higher price than the competition. Buyers are just looking for a deal. They're not like you who own a home. If you own a home, part of your life is there. There's a lot of reason to keep that place. Buyer doesn't see any of that. Buyer compares your home to another home. Which one can I get a better deal on? That's the way they'll make a decision. Steve, can I get? Yeah. I got here. People didn't like my information. And a lot of times I'd walk away with nothing, but I didn't know what else to do other than tell them the truth. Now this is how we make decisions. I showed this at one of the seminars earlier. I just threw it back up there because I like it. It's pretty. But this is how we are wired mentally. Kahneman did this a long time ago, not in the 40s, but in the 90s. So this is all dated too. But they actually tried to do this. They gave the kids a bunch of coffee cups. They took them out of the bookstore. They said, these coffee cups are yours. Go out and sell them. Well, the kids all wanted to sell them for the same price over in the bookstore. And the people who were buying them knew what was in the bookstore. They didn't want to pay the price. So we even have words for that now. This is not been fixed, but I'll fake it. This is what you should get, what you should be working from. This is called a comparative market analysis. This is analysis of homes in Encinitas that are between I-5, Rancho Santa Fe Road, Liebenheim Boulevard, and Encinitas Boulevard. Living areas of 1,000 to 2,000 square feet, 3 to 4 bedrooms that have been sold over the past year. Now, out of that list of homes, the summary is there at the top. You can see where it says that the high list price was $285, the highest sold price was $575. Low price would have been $1.2 million, the average was 1.8, the median was 1.85. Now, if you held this in front of a buyer that was one of those size homes, what price out of the 2.5 million to 1.8 million, what price do you think most homeowners would pick? Most of the ones that I sit down with, they pick the 2.8 price. Seldom do people say, well, I'm a median home, this is a median seller. No, most people are going to default to the higher price. Right? Right? Don't they?
Yes, they do. The most money they can get.
That's the most money you can get. This is one of our favorite ones. This is a loss aversion. We are so afraid of losing stuff. So when you decide to sell your house, that's why you're going to pick that higher price. You want more money, but your house is better than everybody else's because you're living there. It's again, science. Now, you get to a point in all of this where you're really going to sell your house, and you've decided that's going to happen, but you still have the nagging anxiety of, this is my house. You're going to deal with the other cognitive bias. I don't want to live it, right? you're already in that process, but this is what you're going through. A good way to look at this is you gotta buy into what I'll be talking about later. It's the house that you're selling, it's not about you anymore. It's like an asset, it's like a stock. Your goal is to figure out how to get the most money back from that asset you're now selling. Not try to remember the way it was. That will work against you. Okay, we'll go to the next one. All right, now, not having a clear downsizing plan? Okay.
Thanks. So not having a plan, like with anything, it can lead to fatigue and feeling overwhelmed. If you're anything like me, you walk into a room that you know you need to declutter or downsize or get rid of things, and you're so overwhelmed you don't know where to start. I turn around, I walk back out, and I close the door. So I don't know. A lot of people are like me, many aren't, but so if you have a plan, you've seen this this slide before. If you have a plan, you can take one bite at a time. Luckily, I have a daughter who has a plan for my home office, and she's been helping me clean it out. Eating the elephant, yes, and it was a big elephant. So again, you have this handout in your folder. It's on the back side of the Maslow one. Having a clear moving plan is crucial in downsizing. Selling your home is just one step, but knowing where you're going to move to and how you're going to get there can help you reduce your stress. So you want to start by making a plan for sorting, packing, and relocating. And you know how important this is. Rick had a whole seminar on it. So the first one is, and I can't stress this enough, is don't wait to hire a realtor until you've finalized everything. The sooner you hire a realtor, no matter who it is, the sooner they can start helping you make decisions. So you don't feel overwhelmed and think you have to make them all on yourself, make them yourself. So you want to think about where you're going to move to. Are you going to move closer to your family? Do you want a smaller home? Are you thinking about one of these senior community centers? So that's one thing you definitely want to touch on. Do you need professional help? Downsizing requires more than just packing your boxes. Do you need painters? Do you need handymen? Do you need movers? What is it that you need help with? And the decluttering, if you're not moving before you sell the cluttered spaces, that can make your home feel much smaller. So you want to declutter everything to create a more appealing space. And don't be too sentimental, which is really hard when it's your home and you've lived there for so long. But Rick has a great story about a Colonel Rivaldi that he's going to share with you of being sentimental about your home.
Greg Rivaldi, this is a great guy, great Marine, flew helicopters a bunch of times in Iraq. I sold a few houses for him. When he finally finished, and he was moving now out of San Diego, and he was going to spend the rest of his life in Seattle. He got hired by United Airlines. Everything was going great. And I walked through his house, and he goes, "So what do I need to do?" Well, it needed painted because they had darkened a lot of the walls. They made it theirs. It was their house. There wasn't anything wrong with it. But we needed to get rid of some of those dark colors. There were trees outside that were already impinging on the house. 5 or 6 other things, right? And so we talked about it, and he said, "Yeah, I'll take care of it, right? No problem." So about 2 weeks later, he called me and says, "Hey, come over and check out what I did." Right? One of the trees had a little bit of work done on it. That was about it. And I said, "Greg, nice work. What about the garden we talked about?" He goes, "Yeah, well," his daughter Elise, he says, "I remember planting that when Elise was born, and that's her garden, right?" And I said, "Yeah, I don't think it's going to help sell the house." And he was like, "I can't." And all of a sudden, a thought came to my mind. I said, "Greg, let's go around back out front." So we walked back out front of the house. I said, "Now let's walk across the street." And we walked across the street, and I said, now, what do you see? And he goes, my house. I said, yeah, that's the problem. You're seeing your house. You know what I see for you, Greg? Is a big bag of money. And I was scared because the guy was a colonel. And I didn't know how I was going to handle it. And I think, well, at least I didn't get hit. Called me back 2 days later, and he said, I need you to come out here again. In those 2 days, he hired all kind of people, had all kind of, I couldn't believe it, right? And he goes, looks like a bag of money now, doesn't it? I said, yeah, it does. And it sold okay, but it's that sort of idea that you have to fight with. Mistake number 4. Not evaluating the current condition of your home. A lot of people, now you've heard of home inspections, I hope. And you've probably heard that sometimes you don't need a home inspection. Sometimes you've heard, get a home inspection done. You can give the seller, we're going to give you a whole lot of money. Let me tell you, fact is, before your home exchanges owners, inspectors are going to go through here. They're going to look at it. Either you can have your inspector do it, or you can have that buyer's inspector do it. You can get the information ahead of time, or you can wait until you're trying to close escrow and move into your next place. Both work. Both work. A buyer's inspection usually happens during escrow. If you've already, at seller, or it's a seller pre-list negotiation, offer before accepted, the way that I've been doing this, and it wasn't popular when I first started, is when somebody calls me and says, I would like to make an offer on this property of yours, I say, before you come up with a price, I have something for you. This is the property inspection. And they, what is that? I said, the property inspection. Oh, send it, I want to see it. They said, well, you want to see it, but now you're going to hear the bad news. There's stuff in there that we fixed. There's stuff in there that we didn't fix. And there's stuff in there that we are not going to fix, no matter what you say. So if your client comes back and says, we want this, at the same time, please bring me back cancellation of escrow because we're going to cancel the deal with you. That way, I mean, you can really net more money that way. Instead of having the buyer decide on what repairs he wants, you decide. The importance of that, I had no information on any buyer that's received money from a seller and used it. They didn't use it to fix up the house. They used it to get new carpeting if they wanted. They used it to do other things. It never went into any repairs. Even people's homes that I sold, later on, they had me come back to sell the house, right? And I got one that I'm thinking of, I got him $20,000 for some really bad issues in the house. And if we're going through the house, I said, wait a minute. I said, did you take care of those mold issues in this area? He goes, oh yeah, those are all taken care of. And I said, all right. And then we kept walking around, and then I kept finding more and more things. I said, wait a minute, that wasn't replaced, that wasn't replaced. He goes, yeah, I'm not worrying about any of that. What do you think he did with the money? He just kept it. Making unnecessary or inappropriate updates. There's things I know that if I ask for hands in here, most people would raise their hands saying that there's something that they want to do to their house. When you're selling your house, it's not what you want. It's what that person's going to buy at once. Don't think you know what they want. Do a property inspection first. You'll probably be spending enough money on the repairs that needed from that rather than putting in that walkway that you thought would be a great idea. You only want to renovate what needs to be renovated. We shoot for the low-cost repairs. One of the things that I've done for people, and I've spent up to $100,000 in some homes, I didn't spend $1 unless I knew I could get it back for. That's where you want to be. Invest in money, it's going to make you money. Don't invest money in a house that you're not going to be living in just because you thought it would be there. Now, that is a mistake you can make. Now, I'm going to tell you what happens a lot of times is people feel, well, I still want to do that. I still want to put in that walkway. I still want to do that. Go ahead and do it if you want. If it makes you feel better, do it. You're not going to get paid for it, but it'll make you feel better if you do it. So nobody loses on that place. All right. Ignoring curb appeal. There is so much in the internet now that buyers are looking at. They pretty much are going to decide the homes that they want to drive by because their photographer's probably done a heck of a job making that place look like a castle. And people look at that and they go, I'm going to that house, I'm gonna go see it. They show up and they go, there is no way I wanna go in there. And they go, it looks great from the outside, but from the inside, from the outside it doesn't look good. I got a couple of examples. This is a home we did some work on. And yeah, the photographs are different because one was taken by the real estate broker, me, with a cell phone, and the other was taken by a professional photographer.
Wow.
But if you just think in your mind, which home would you rather go into? This is some stuff I just pulled off the internet because it looked better than stuff that I had in mind. You can see, I mean, I look at a lot of homes around, and it seems like on this one on the left, before and after, right? They never trimmed the tree, but what are they? This was a landscaping firm. They were trying to sell the tree. They're not trying to sell the house, right? And that happens a lot. And the same one on the right. I mean, it's just covered in foliage. Places get covered in foliage because it was fun when that bush was this high. But I'm telling you, you're still working off your subconscious mind. You don't see that bush anymore. You see the house that you moved into. That's what your eyes are pointing at something different, but your brain sees the same house. And this is even a better example of that. I look at so many times, the first thing, you know, I'll go, people are showing me the inside of their house and they're saying, look at this, this is great, this is great. And when I drove up, I knew, man, you are $20,000 down in the landscaping that needs down here. The other stuff doesn't matter. Go to the next one. All right, and failing to highlight the home's best features. I hate to keep going back to this. I'm going to do it because I want to make sure that you understand. That thing that's in your unconscious mind about your house and the way it looks is not what other people are going to see. You look at something, you see it the way you remember it. The buyer looks at your house, he remembers what he just saw. This is an example of one of those, and I don't know if you can see it or not. There's a tree here, base of a tree here, base of a tree there. Those trees were about 30 or 40 feet high. Now imagine that there's a 30 or 40 foot high tree there, and you can see the way it all branches up. They were very bushy. What kind of view do you think the people had that walked inside of that house and those trees were there? All they saw was the trees. It's an Olivenheim. You can see almost all of Olivenheim from the top of that hill, but you couldn't with the trees there. And what the buyer paid for that house was embarrassing, almost. I mean, they loved it. It was exactly what they wanted. We'll go to the next one. This is an Olivenheim. If you look in this area here, you can see all the foliage that's around the house. And if you think I'm wrong, try to take this thought home with you and look at the homes in your neighborhood. Drive down any street, and you'll see a lot of this. And the only reason anybody ever gives me that they like it like this is because it gives them more privacy. This is a house on one acre. You know, I mean, their neighbors are pretty far away. This is, and you can see some of it there, but we took out those trees. It was on the market for about 2 months, and I kept asking the seller, can we get the view back? Can we get the view back? You don't need the view. Look at all this stuff, right? When they were not getting pricing like they wanted, I said, please, let me get rid of the trees. So I walked down the hill, talked to the neighbor. Where was the neighbor's trees? And I told the neighbor, I said, hey, we're trying to sell this house up here, and I would like to offer to trim your trees. And they said, you're going to do it? I said, no, I'm going to hire somebody to do it. Would you let us do it? The guy goes, yeah. And he goes, before you go, he said, are you going to trim them or are you going to take them out of there? And I said, well, we're just going to trim them. And he said, will you take them out for me too? Yeah, babe. He didn't want them either. Nobody liked them and was keeping this guy from selling his house. Is this one yours? Staying home for showings? Okay.
So you absolutely do not want to stay home while your house is being shown when it's on the market. So you're having an open house, right? And Your agent will be there and will take care of things. You do not want to be there because buyers want to walk into a home and they want to feel free to look around. They want to open your drawers. They want to open your closets. And they don't want to feel like they're snooping into your stuff. So you need to plan to be out of the house because they need to picture themselves living there. They don't want to picture themselves that sort of pushing you out. So that is definitely a mistake to think, well, I have to watch over my stuff. No, you don't. It'll be taken care of by the agent. Mistake number 8 is failing to prepare your home for showings. There are 2 parts for preparing your home when you're getting ready to show it, when it's on the market and you're going to show it. The first one is the home readiness. So you've already cleared out all your belongings, you've decluttered, and you want to make it show as well as you can. So you probably want to have it professionally cleaned. You might want to have a gardener come and make sure everything is trimmed, the bushes are trimmed, the lawns are mowed. You might want to plant some new flowers. So you want to get it ready and make it look as good as you possibly can. I just had a listing for a home. The woman lived there for 50 years. She was the original owner and she did not do any upgrades at all in 50 years. She recently passed away and she left everything in the home. And her grandson came down and he took care of some of it, but we helped clear everything out. We gave away a ton of things, and we did have a gardener come in and trim everything up. We had someone come and power wash everything, all the around the outside. We had someone come in and take a bunch of junk. So there's a lot to get ready for it. And it's all very doable, but you want to make sure it's done. And the second part of it is if you're going to have your house staged. Now you don't have to have it staged. You can leave it the way it is. But a lot of us have maybe older furniture that you've lived with for a long time, and it looks old and it might look maybe a little shabby. You might have old quilts or bedspreads on your beds, and you want to freshen everything up. So a stager can come in. A lot of times they'll use your furniture, or sometimes they'll bring in their own, and they will add some new decor and just highlight the best features of your home. And studies have shown that homes that are staged actually receive more offers at higher prices than homes that were not staged. So there are facts on the internet about that.
Yeah, let me see those. The one thing that I like about staying home for showings, that whole idea, is I likened it to, does anybody ever go to department stores anymore? Or you get everything online? You go to a department store, right? The first thing you get is, can I help you? I had a listing, it took 3 more months to sell because the people would not leave you. And that just delays that, which takes me back to your home will sell. You don't have to do any of these things we're talking about. All we're doing is showing you what our experiences are. And my experience is also that people have worked against this and still sold their home. So these are just ideas. Because you have ideas, right? In your subconscious mind. Failing to disclose. This is where most of the lawsuits come from. And most of the lawsuits in California are real estate lawsuits. Don't be afraid to tell people what's wrong with your home. If you're living in North San Diego County, you've got everything you need. Your home will sell. Sometimes, I'll give you a perfect example of somebody not disclosing something. A real estate agent has to walk through a house and fill out a contract. It's called an agent's visual disclosure. It's what the agent saw. It has to be part of the package. I took, let's see, we got a listing. Christy took the agent visual disclosure. She wrote it all out. And the next time I showed up to talk to the seller, they were like, we're not signing this. And I said, what's the matter? And they said, well, your wife just tore our house up. And I said, what are you talking about? I said, punch something out, right? They said, well, look at this. It says right here that our fence has a crack in it. I said, does your fence have a crack in it there? Yeah, but why are we telling people that? Because that's what she saw. She has to. It's the law, right? You guys need to redo this. It was a couple of conversations before we never got around to it. We'd look at each other and go, what do you think's going on here? I don't know. Nobody likes to hear that something's wrong with our house, that's all. So we finally sold the property, and within 3 days, I get a call from the buyer going, hey, this jacuzzi doesn't work. And I go, no, I was there when they inspected it, it works. He goes, pump doesn't work. I said, the pump doesn't work. And I go, yeah. So how do you know? He goes, the service guy's here, do you want to talk to him? And I go, oh, well, no, but what's the matter? He goes, the pump's broken, it doesn't work. And he said he's been telling this homeowner that for the past 2 years. And I went, oh man, I am sorry, just give me till this afternoon, I'll take care of it. I called the seller back up, and I said, hey, do you know that your pump is not working in the jacuzzi? He goes, it's not my problem, I sold that house. And I said, well, yeah, you did. And I said, yeah, you've got a real problem now. And he goes, I'm not paying it. And I go, you got to. He goes, I'm not paying it. And he said, well, then here's what's going to happen. He said, he's going to file a lawsuit against you because you didn't disclose it was there. And he goes, nobody asked me. And I said, they've already got a witness. Don't play around. I said, you're going to be responsible for replacing that pump. What's it cost? The guy goes, I don't know, $500 maybe, $600? I said, that's cheap. And he goes, no, that's a better pump. I said, no, that's cheap compared to what you're going to get from his attorney. And the guy goes, well, I'm not paying him more than $500. I said, well, now you're going to be responsible for his legal fees too. Plus how long this guy just got demoted, disclosed. And he said, I don't believe you. And I said, well, I need to hear back yes or no by today at 4. And it was about 20 minutes later, he called me back. He said, all right, we'll replace the pump. No, he said, we'll give him the money to replace the pump. I said, no, give the money to the service guy, have the service guy replace the pump. But that thing could have cost the guy, I don't know, $5,000, right? Just be honest with people, tell them what's in there, right? Tell them what you know. And people always say, well, what should I disclose? Disclose what you know, don't disclose what you think, right? Usually the property inspector will find most of it. Not hiring the right real estate representation and not hiring soon enough. I'm going to tell you just a quick story. We had a very nice lady sitting in one of our earlier seminars, and she was all excited about, moving to Seattle, somewhere in Washington, but she wasn't ready yet. Okay, that's young. So we got a call from her months later, and she said, my house isn't selling. Your house isn't selling, why not? I said, here, let me look at it, right? I looked at the price, it should be sold. What do you mean it's not selling? She goes, well, I've had it in escrow 3 times. It sold 3 times. But the buyers always kept walking away. I said, what did your agent say? And she said, well, he doesn't talk to me that much. And I said, how did you find that agent? And she goes, well, I was going to hire you guys, but he just came to the door and said he had a buyer for my house. And so it was a little while later. We did get the property sold for her. It did cost her a little extra because she was on the market a little bit longer. But I kept wondering, because I was not going to call the agent and say, what's the matter with you? But I figured at least I could go to the multiple listing service and see how many homes he sold, how good of a real estate agent was. I spent a long time. Usually I can find that out right away. I could not find his name anywhere in San Diego, in the MLS. The guy had no record of a home sale or a home purchase, none. But what really bothered me about that was she was also in the real estate business. So you'd think she would have had some previous information. But the home did sell, and everything did go okay. So what I wondered at the time, there's a whole bunch of hiring biases that we have. There's like, I think I counted off 12 of them. But the fact of the matter is according to the National Association of Realtors, 74% of the people that were interviewed used the first agent they talked to. Never talked to more than one. Now, this is a list that I put together of things that you could, once you find the real estate agent, some of the things that you could ask them. Training and background. Remember, they're human too. They're not going to tell you the bad things, they're just going to tell you the good things about themselves, all the great stuff that they've ever done. Track record of recent sales. They're probably going to say something along the lines of, oh, I've sold a lot of houses. I've been in the real estate business for 40 years. You're going to hear the one question you want to ask them is, how are you going to manage the lender? And what they're going to tell you is, I don't have to. It's the buyer who's going to get the lender. They have to manage the lender. A lot of buyer's agents don't understand how the lending process works. Those are questions to ask. The other one was professional experience, especially as an agent, what they tell you they can do. Ability to give you helpful information about comparable sales. Remember the CMA that I gave you? You should get one of those. Plan for marketing the property, we talked about that. Ideas, prepare your home for marketing and showings, talked about that. How much an agent will charge for the services. You guys have probably heard already that there's been some changes in commissions. Trust me, it's pretty much all the same. That's the simple end of it. This is the most important thing on that list, was how you're going to figure out what an agent's background is. This should be in your handout. You're going to hear people tell you in the real estate business that there's no way that you can get one of these. That's not true. This is public information. Anybody that's a member of the multiple listing service can give you that.
What is it called?
It's called, we call it a multiple listing data sheet, MLS data sheet. Now I want you to pay attention to a couple of things. First of all, with where artificial intelligence is going, I'm sure that people are going to be manufacturing these things themselves. But what I would be interesting is if they're going to manufacture those things, and this stuff is at the bottom of that, that's fraud and some time in jail. So just make sure that they're referencing a real office. But if you look at the top line here, this will tell you where this property was listed at. The listed price was $17.75, and below that you see $19.49. They started high. This is the seller's market. You can do that. It's okay. However, we couldn't find anybody to buy at that price. We got offers, but nowhere near the price that they were hoping to get. So I think we went about 65 days before we dropped that price, and as soon as we dropped the price, we started getting offers. The piece that's real important is this bottom piece. Make sure that you see the agent's name and the license number. What you're going to get from a real estate agent is, well, I give those to you, but my broker does not allow me to do that. Now, I don't know them, I don't know their broker, but there's no law against it. You should be able to give people information, don't you think? Problem is you can't get this unless you know somebody that has MLS. And it was me, I'm making a recommendation, and you're getting ready to do this. Those agents that you're calling, this is what you say. Say, great, I can't wait to sit down and talk with you. I would like to see the MLS data sheets for the last 10 properties you sold. You're going to get everything from, it's not possible, that's crazy, I won't do it, to, oh, okay. And then they'll bring you ones back, and see where it says on the bottom there, list agent's name? It won't be their name. It will be somebody on their team. Somebody that works in their office, not them. Just like our other client. It could be the first listing appointment they've gone on. You could be the first person to hire this person. I'm not against any of that. I mean, you gotta start somewhere. But you gotta think of the risk that you're taking. I mean, it'd be a great thing to do to help a family member get their first listing. But that family member with their first listing is going to have to learn how the finance system works, how loans are written. They're going to have to understand how to do the marketing piece of this. And if you're doing any work to the home, the important work that needs done, right, as opposed to just any work. So give yourself the tip sheets at least. At least make them come in with that. You're going to get some people who are going to come in with 5 and say, hey, I've only been doing this for 10 years. Right? Well, do you want a heart surgeon that's only been... it's the same thing. The contracts that we were showing and talking about, they change every year. You want somebody that's actually gone through the learning curve of that. Otherwise, you will sell your home. It will sell. It'll just take longer, and you'll probably get less money. Not a lot. You know, I don't know how much less. It depends on what you finally agree to. So, I'm going to finish up now. This is going back to the habit loop. And then the conscious mind, you guys, we don't use it much. And it's a fact, we don't. We are conserving our energy. We will just revert to our unconscious mind most of the time. And I feel sorry for some people that are probably living their life here. You really don't need this other stuff other than just communicate. You don't need to know. You don't need to be aware of what's going on. Cognitive behavioral therapy, I'm not going to get really deep into this, but I promised the last time I brought up something like this that I would look into the anxiety of decluttering, and I would study it and get back with you when I had something for you to use. I have something for you to use. Here's what you can use. This is what I use. It took me a little while. It takes about 90 days to get through the whole thing. But before I went through what was online, I read the book. And the book was amazing. This guy's amazing. And when I first read him, I was trying to figure out how to develop a habit of exercise. And I read a whole bunch of stuff. And I wasn't coming up with willpower, you know, none of that stuff was working. And then I discovered or heard about this book where this guy was talking about nothing but habits. They were the habits of people with cocaine addictions and smoking addictions. But I figured if I followed that through in this first book, I could make it work for my exercising. And I do. I get up almost every morning and exercise. If you go to LA Fitness, I'll be there at 5 or 6. He also has something online, and this is what I'm really, I don't get paid for this. I'm not selling this, but you are my neighbors, and I hope to be my friends. I hope to see you again. What I'm telling all my personal friends is do this. You can get this online. All you have to do is type in unwinding anxiety. It'll cost you $140. It takes about 90 days to internalize the whole thing. But since then, I noticed that I'm not getting as so upset as I used to be because I realized where those thoughts that are getting me upset are coming from. And then I now realize how to manipulate that a bit, how to manage it, I'll say. So that's as far as I'm going to go with this guy. If you don't want to do this, I still say that when you're in that place, just that high level of anxiety, there are therapists, they'll charge anywhere between $450 an hour, and some are down as far as $20 an hour. Or you can just, they have great chemicals for this too. There's all options, one of them. It's a lot easier than spending time going through this. But this works out in other places too. This will help you with issues that your brain's not treating you right on. So for all that, I will finish now and answer all questions.
Okay, so when you're talking about disclosures, what about neighbors? Like not real nice neighbors?
You're going to be, let me put it this way, disclose it, okay? You don't go to your neighbors. It may be a good idea to tell your neighbors that maybe you're one of the ways is say, hey, I'm selling my house, and I would like to get as much money as I can for my house, because that makes your house worth more money, right? And can you guys help me out with trimming that tree, doing this or that? I do that, as a listing agent, I do that. Most of the neighbors will do that work, but you're gonna find somebody that says, get out of here, right? But, yeah.
Well, not so much as far as like trimming trees and that sort of thing, but complaining. Two-story condo, upstairs, downstairs, I'm upstairs, they're downstairs. It's called community living. You are going to hear your neighbors, but they are entitled to not hearing your neighbors. They do not do their due diligence and understand that you're gonna hear upstairs, and have continually been harassing me for now 5 years, that I need to bring my floors up to code, which is BS, because I bought it the way it was, and that wasn't in the HOA at the time.
Does people own that property, or are they renting it?
Yes, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. You know, you can only have that discussion with them, right? And then when you sell, right, put it in the disclosures. I mean, don't leave that hanging out
Well,
there.
I'm not gonna leave it hanging out, but I'm just wondering how much detail to go into, or, you know, that sort of thing. I mean, like, occasionally beating on their ceiling with a broom
Oh.
at 5 o'clock in the afternoon because you're wearing your shoes.
Yeah, this stuff is going, here's where it comes out. I'm gonna give you a perfect example of where it comes out. And there was an occasion where people just bought the house, they loved it, and they were talking with the neighbors about it. And the neighbors said, well, what did they do about the plumbing issue? And the people said, plumbing issue? Nobody ever said anything about it. Tell me more about that plumbing issue. Oh yeah, over there, right? That leak's over there. You can't tell from here, but you can tell if you go over there, right? And usually the property inspector does not do a lot of yard inspection, and they don't leave the area. So there was no way that those people, that seller was run down and had to pay, I don't know what the final number was, but I figured it's pretty high. But again, that's a neighbors are not people that you want when you're selling your house. Yeah, tell the neighbors you're selling your house, but don't start talking with them about what you're taking care of or what you're leaving or those things.
Let me, can I, you're talking about neighbors that, you're talking about neighbors that are maybe obnoxious. You do want to disclose that you have neighbors that maybe unruly neighbors. You want to say occasional complaints from neighbors. You want to say that there is something going on with the neighbor, but you don't need to go into complete detail.
That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah, you just need to basically say some issues with neighbors.
Okay.
And then if buyers have more questions, because they're gonna look at this, they're gonna get all your information, they're gonna get all your disclosures. And if they want more information, then they'll ask for it. Yeah. I think she was next.
Thank you. You said hire a realtor earlier in the process. How early is early? And what do I do? How do I decide that?
Early is what's comfortable for you. Now, but the earlier you do it, the easier it becomes, because you can just take one bite of that elephant at a time, rather than having to eat a whole. So the earlier the better. But
At this point, I don't have a timeline. I have a husband who has Alzheimer's, and I'm thinking maybe 2 years. Maybe
I've gone on 2 years.
You can
I
start,
with people, because if you go through,
Now, when I say hire, does that mean I've signed a contract for 3?
yes, and
Or
all
for
that,
6 months that I renew every 6 months?
right. Or you can sign it for 5 years if you want. It doesn't make any difference, right? Because all you're saying at that point is, okay, the real estate agent will say, well, at least I've got the listing, so I can still sell the house. I've just got to get the house ready and my client ready for set to move. And sometimes I've had clients that take them a long time to declutter, to pack, to find a place to move. You know, a lot of people say, I'll say, when are you moving? They'll say, well, the next 1 to 3 years. I hear that, and right away I say, number one, let's get a property inspection done. Let's find out what you have to sell, right? You probably need the assets from your property. Let's find out exactly what that number is. You want to get to that number early enough, because that will help you determine where you're going to go. So, as soon as you as the homeowner, should be able to decide how early is early enough for you. Bring a real estate agent, bring an agent in, have a look at the house, right? Say, how long would it take you to get the house ready, right? And,
If nothing else, you could start talking to an agent, and you don't have to necessarily sign a contract. You could just start talking to them and start building that rapport. Yeah, and they'll help you.
How many agents would you suggest is prudent to look at or to inquire of?
how many agents do you think you should talk to?
Yeah.
I'd say at least 3, but most people only talk to 1.
Right, I have a neighbor who is an agent,
Okay.
and I have over the last 2 or 3 years called him up and asked him questions.
Mm-hmm.
And when I did so, the assumption, sort of implicit but unexpressed, was he would be my agent. I'm having second thoughts about that,
That
because
happens
of,
a lot.
okay.
You really, I mean, find out. I mean, just because this is his job, right? You don't need to sell a house to be a real estate agent.
What I'm thinking is, what is the trade-offs between having a neighbor, you know, as an investment in selling the house? Well, that maybe that's more for the buyer than for me.
It can go two different ways, right? If it's my neighbor, I am going to make sure that I get every dime I can for that house because it increases my price, right? But some real estate agents are trained that the most important thing is they get the home sold quickly, and they'll sell it for less. So I don't know who we're talking about, but those are the 2 things that you have to be looking at.
I have one other
I was just
question.
gonna say, when he said talk to 3, that's a good idea. Talk to 3 agents. You wanna go with the person you feel comfortable with. It's not necessarily gonna be your neighbor. It might, you know, it's not necessarily gonna be Rick. You wanna go to someone that you feel, when you talk to them, you feel comfortable, and you know they're going to take care of you, and you feel good about the communication and whatnot. So that's sort of what talking to more real estate agents.
What if he's only sold 2 houses?
Well, that's all part of it. You're gonna ask the questions and find out who's gonna take that, and that's included in it.
It's not that you're looking for a friend here. You're looking for somebody to take your biggest asset and turn it into as much money as they can.
What is the trade-off for cost of repairs versus curb appeal? For example, my backyard is dirt.
It depends. You know, first of all, I have to see it, but those are things that we can do later.
Maybe some of these questions, the personal questions, they'll be happy to
Yeah.
answer.
Judith?
We're running a little
I'll be
short
here,
of
so-
time. Okay, so who was next?
Well, I'll just ask a quick question on, is there a statute of limitations from when you purchased a property that they did not disclose things and then we find out 10 years later?
I don't think so.
There's-
No, I
there's
mean,
no
that's
statute.
fraud, period.
Really?
Yeah, you can't commit fraud.
Wow, okay.
Is there a verified list of vendors to do repairs or organizations that do decluttering? Because it seems people can be a little shady when it comes to repairs and costs and that.
You're correct. Encinitas Villages start working with them because they know they have some people already. That's what they're trying to put together. When you're going to hire somebody, I mean, you got to base it all on how you feel about them. I mean, I just had one of my vendors try to get $6,000 from me, for my house. Right? But the kid didn't know who I was, right? And he was just doing what he was told to do. And I'd use that company forever. I'll never use that company again. I was recommending it. I can't recommend it now.
So there's no way to verify or
They're gonna give you
associations?
referrals. Talk to people that have used, if you're looking for a plumber, talk to neighbors, talk to somebody that's used somebody, go for a referral. I mean, I pull them right off the internet, but I know how all this stuff's done. So, and I know right away when I'm being hustled or not. They got that last one by me because I thought that they really knew who I was and the amount of money I was giving to them. The tech that they sent me didn't.
We can provide some names for you, but Rick's right. If you have neighbors who have used them,
May I ask one question?
yes.
Okay, I've seen a lot of these MLS sheets, and like I'm an attorney myself, and I get that, I think I can go to the MLS listings and get this, can't I myself?
Not unless you're a member. You have to be a member of the MLS to get that.
Okay, well.
You can call me and I'll send them to you.
Oh.
Yeah, an agent.
An agent, okay. And in California, there's a real estate association, right? It's a society that governs.
California Association of Realtors.
And licenses them all. Well, does it have a complaint procedure? Does it have the background of every agent, whether they had a complaint against them?
Yes, and I've complained to them directly. I'm telling you, the only thing that those guys do is they want more agents. It's seldom to even get a letter, a reprimand, you know. And
Okay.
if you don't go that far, but
They don't really perform.
it's a club. Okay,
Going back to what that person was talking about, neighbors and disclosing, is there a way to get, I know that there's public records, like if you're moving into a neighborhood and you hear it's really good and safe and everything, is there a way to get a record from the police or from animal control or something if they have like a golden retriever or a pit bull or any dogs or that are always off leash, or if there's a drug house like down the street or something?
I mean, you probably know the answer. You start
Well,
with the
I know a
sheriff.
little about the dogs, but a little about the dogs, I would say it for others, but about the police.
So start with the police.
Okay.
Yeah, and then they'll move it off to community services or whoever, they'll do something about it. Okay?
I want to remind you, please fill out your evaluation form, and Rick is going to talk about the rest of the stuff. Any more questions?
All right. I'll be here cleaning up if you have any questions up the side.